So, I guess this brings us on to episode 39.5, Alex.
It does.
Where we're about to discuss Medal of Honor. Allied? Frontline. I'm lucky it's Frontline because that's what I've written at the top of the video and I didn't want to go back and change it. So we're very, 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 very lucky. So quick.
We're golden.
I was a big fan of this game, became increasingly... big fan of this game, obviously, and I think it's another game that's important for shooters.
Hold that thought. Wait a second.
Thought is held firmly in my grasp. What is he doing? He must have it. Does he have it? He must. There he goes.
Oh.
You've got the GameCube, the GameCube version.
It's not going to fit on the screen, I don't think.
Get Jimmy Patterson's head. Yeah.
Jimmy
Patterson. Yeah, this game. I've now lost the thought I was desperately trying to hold on to.
Were you not just reading your notes?
No, not yet. But yeah,
you loved this game at the time.
I loved this game. I loved this game at the time. I loved this game replaying it. I think it perhaps falls into a trap that maybe games of this period felt that they needed to have, in which the end sort of descends into a weird boss battle, and it feels unlike, I think, the rest of the game at some point.
I'm almost certain as well that the end parts of this game are incredibly fictionalized versus more historical parts from the beginning.
It's such a shame because they use actual footage and they go to great pain, actual war footage, and they go to great pains to try and make this a sort of. And granted, this is the first post Spielberg Medal of Honor game, but they go to great pains to make this cinematic thing that is true and respectful of World War II, and then
absolutely
at the end it's just some weird comic book bollocks that has you riding in minecarts and shooting some big bad Nazi. I think it starts to go downhill about the train level, because that's
agreed.
Where it starts to get weird.
Yeah,
and start to put more of an emphasis on the Nazi that is ultimately the end boss.
Yeah, because. But for some parts of it, you are obviously part of it, especially the beginning, which was their desperation to rip off the opening scenes of Saving Private Ryan. You're very clearly part of an army. You're clearly just an exceptional soldier, or an exceptionally lucky one anyway, in a platoon. Whereas towards the end of the game, you're a one-man wrecking machine who's going to hunt down an evil Nazi and blow up his plane and steal it. Yeah. Blow up his airport and steal his plane by yourself. So that I cannot believe happened in the war.
No.
At all.
No.
And this is jumping really far ahead now, but I found that the end cutscene after you did all of this was pathetic. It was just he's like, great work. You've done amazing stuff here. Go and have a little rest. I'm sure we'll be needing you again anyway. So see you soon. Yeah. Bye.
Yeah. I'm fairly certain, don't hold me to this, that it does do some obviously does some historical retcon, because Jimmy Patterson steals codes to the Enigma machine. They do some retconning in that Jimmy Patterson goes, I'm sure at some point saw this when I was playing through, steals codes for the Enigma machine, which is the Nazi code thing.
Just in somebody's little sidecar, little side dresser on a train.
So yeah, Medal of Honor Frontline was first released on the 29th of May 2002 in North America and the 7th of June in Europe. It's the third game in the series after the PS1 games Medal of Honor Underground, and then the PC-only game Medal of Honor Allied Assault. Mm-hmm. The opening level of Frontline is... this blew my mind, and I think I've told Alex this about 3 times, but the opening level of Frontline is actually a remake of one of the mid-game levels from Allied Assault, which documents the Normandy D-Day landing, something that I didn't know about the game before researching this at all.
It's kind of like all the Star Wars games redoing the Death Star trench run over and over again.
I went back and watched the PC version, and it is a beat-for-beat remake, almost.
That is mad.
Yeah, it's really, really interesting.
Oh, actually, before we go too much further, it's important to point out that halfway through playing this, we initially started playing this on emulation of the original version, and then halfway through, I bought the remade 2010 version that came with the sort of reboot of Medal of Honor, so to speak, on the PS3. And in this opening level, on the original version, and this was sort of a theme that kind of ran on throughout. But in the original D-Day landings bit, when you were trying to find people on the beach that you were supposed to go give covering fire to, they had like a red flare next to them to kind of mark them. That's not in the remake.
No?
No,
How are you meant to know where to
they were
go?
just there. Exactly. And then later levels, there were other slight things that would give you hints on where you were supposed to be going that just weren't there. They just took them out for some reason.
Weird.
Yeah, bizarre and annoying.
Yeah, that's unacceptable.
Because that first level is very suitably clusterfucky. It's so difficult to figure out what you're supposed to be doing at first.
Yeah, which I agree in a way sort of leans into the sort of madness of what it would have been like at that time. Just figuring out what was going on is just almost impossible. You were just in this absolute chaotic existence. But this game was developed by EA LA. That's not an easy thing to say. The game was the first Medal of Honor by the studio after being purchased by Electronic Arts from DreamWorks and Microsoft in February 2000. It's also the first game in the series, as I think we've mentioned already, without the involvement of Steven Spielberg, creator of the series, who was the creator of the series. In 2010, an HD port of the game was included within the limited edition PlayStation 3 version of Medal of Honor. Does it control any differently?
Yeah.
Much better?
The controls are still terrible because of I have never been able to fathom this in my life, but I don't understand why PlayStation games throughout history have decided that L1 and R1 should be your aim and trigger when it has triggers on it as L2 and R2.
Yeah, it's weird.
Why is that never the default shooting and aiming buttons? And you can't change any of the buttons.
It did take Sony a ridiculous amount of time to make L2 and R2 actual triggers, though. They were buttons right up until
perhaps that was what was going on.
I think.
Yeah, okay, that's probably why then. You're right. It's they aren't actual triggers, are they? There's no sort of analog part. It's just a straight
buttons.
up. Yeah. So you can move while shooting, move while aiming, which does help, obviously. The button layout is just fucking batshit. So you're cycling through weapons. To go forward for your weapons, circle. To go backwards is triangle. Your melee becomes R3, clicking in the right analog stick. Your reload button is L2, which is madness to use that. What I would expect to be a trigger is your reload button. Like I say, L1 and R1 is aim and shoot respectively.
Weird.
R2, but R2 is a grenade throw, so you don't have to go through your inventory to select a grenade. You can just chuck a grenade with a button.
I just ended up not really
key
using
point
grenades.
I used them so much because they were so useful. And of course, the key difference is that I was playing a game on the console it was released for, rather than an emulation on a PC of an original game, which meant I had no save states. And we will get into this more later on, but this game does not have any checkpoints at all. If you die at any point, you start the entire level again. Yeah. And there were some levels that I must have played 20 times, almost from the whole way through. I'd get right to the end and die, or the game would break. But we'll get into that later. But that is definitely something to think about if anyone goes out to try and play this game. Use save states, because the game won't help you at all in that regard.
Yeah, you're 100% right. Let's do it again. It's slightly better than Wolfenstein, but the plot in this isn't fantastic. But let's just do a quick rundown of the plot. So, Medal of Honor.
One thing I will say about the plot, actually, I did find it decent that they kind of were not shirking talking about when the Allies had issues in the war. Mm-hmm. It wasn't like a propaganda, hoorah, America, let's go kind of jobby. There were lots of moments in between levels where we'd say oh shit, we've had a bit of a setback, or this is going to cause us this, and the Germans are better at us than this, or whatever.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Spot on. No. So Frontline takes place during the events of the first game in the series, which is Medal of Honor, and follows the journey of Lieutenant Jimmy Patterson from the American Office of Strategy Service, the AOSS. SS is a poor thing to be adding to your team name in a World War II game, I just want to say. The game begins as he is storming Omaha Beach as part of the Operation Overlord, after which the Office of Strategic Services sends him to disrupt a German U-boat operations. Patterson stows away on board the fictional U-boat U-4902 and infiltrates the German U-boat base in Lorient, France, destroying the 4902 and 2 more U-boats and crippling the port. During his infiltration, he crosses paths with an SS Hauptsturmführer named Rudolf Ulbricht von Sturmgeist. Oh my goodness, what a name that is. As he's conducting an inspection, but Sturmgeist, unaware of Patterson's presence, leaves shortly before the base is destroyed. Shortly after Patterson completes his mission in Lorient, the OSS discovers that the Germans are building a secret weapon, but their contact in the Dutch resistance goes missing. Patterson is sent to drop with the 82nd Airborne during Operation Market Garden to find him, meeting up with the resistance and learning the contact is being held in a Nazi-occupied manor. That level, I just want to say, the ending to that level is absolutely hilarious. Did your guy, when you kicked him off the side of the building, did he miss the hay bale?
Yes.
Yeah. I wonder if he was meant to do that, because I remember just sort of, because it's like press A to motivate or something.
Yeah.
You go up and shove him off the side, and then I just looked.
I'm almost certain it's supposed to be he misses and you jump in, but he's still totally fine.
Absolutely fine. Still walks really slow everywhere.
Yeah, that was bizarre.
Yeah. After infiltrating the manor, Patterson locates the contact, why do I keep doing that, and rescues him from German custody. The OSS learns from the contact that the secret weapon is a highly advanced jet fighter called the HO-9, I suppose, which has the potential to change the tide of air power over Europe if it reaches production. Patterson is sent to sabotage the aircraft's production. However, en route he is instructed to cross the Nijmegen. Thank you, Alex, for rescuing me there. Bridge to disarm the explosives. I like, though, that when I was crossing this bridge to disarm the explosive, you don't really bother your arse about most of the explosives. It's just like 1 or 2, and then you just leave all this explosives going about for people to find. He doesn't do a good job of fixing this, is what I'm saying.
They have all the they have like all the dynamite or whatever it is, then rigged up to these main bits, and you just disarm that part, and I guess then it leaves the dynamite useless, I suppose. Yeah,
someone just needs to come along and refix it.
Pretty much.
But I guess because you're some sort of one-man wrecking machine, you've basically cleared out the Nazi territory in that area, so maybe the Allies can come back in.
They're seemingly never-ending.
Yeah. So once he's got to disarm the explosives wired to the bridge and send supplies to besieged British 1st Airborne Division trapped in Arnhem. The OSS, thank you. The OSS makes contact with Patterson again, inform him that they have tracked down Sturmgeist and learned that he's an officer in charge of the HO-9. Patterson is sent to Emmerich to track Sturmgeist, pursuing him aboard the SS officer's personal armoured train, but Patterson is unable to catch him before he escapes. Patterson abandons the train and proceeds to the secret aircraft facility outside Gotha on foot, destroying vital German supplies in a railroad depot before proceeding to the facility where the secret aircraft is being held. Once there, Patterson sabotages the facility and production lines, broadcasts the location of the facility to the Allies, and confronts the Sturmgeist and his guards in the hangar of the HO-9, killing him and using the HO-9 to escape the facility as it is destroyed by an Allied bombing raid.
Yeah.
And I can breathe. That is...
So I would suggest that a lot of these things are probably key parts of the war, but they've just kind of put one man at the heart of all of it.
Yeah.
We're almost like retconning ourselves into all of these actual moments that the army achieved, but as if we were a one-man army.
Yeah,
behind all of it.
They've sort of threaded him throughout the key moments of World War II.
Yeah. And then, as you say, with increasingly daft comic book nonsense towards the end.
Yeah.
Of killing the bad guy, stealing the plane, and the whole thing blows up as he flies off into the sunset for a bit of R&R before they call on him again.
Yeah, which I thought was, I guess in a way, it's a shame.
Mate, I really like it.
Yeah.
I think the story of this is excellent. In the way that it's like...
It's just a bit John Wick.
I love that you have like full on objective. It's like what? It's like Army James Bond.
Yeah,
I felt like a lot of tendrils to GoldenEye in this, where it's like you have
I'd
these
agree with that. Yeah,
objectives,
that's a great shout.
do this, do this, do this, do this, and then finish the level.
Mm-hmm.
And that was so refreshing to have a game set out in that way, where it's
Yeah.
not just like follow this linear path and shit's going to happen around you. It's like you've got to find, stuff in a cuckoo clock or behind a portrait painting or whatever. Like,
You don't know this, do you? Because I find myself wondering if are they always in the same cuckoo clock? Are they always in the same painting? They are. I wondered if they moved them around, but obviously not.
Well, no, because I failed those missions a lot of times and had to do it a lot of times, and it was always the same one.
Always the same one.
Certainly always the same portrait anyway. And I think the first time around I must have chucked a grenade in the room with the cuckoo clock and it blew up by accident. I think, and then at that point I must have just walked past it and been close enough for it to actually pick up the documents, because when I had to redo it later on, having died, I had no idea where it was. I didn't even know how I'd done it before, but it was because I just blew it up by accident and walked near it.
Obviously, it's like looking its age now, and a lot of ways it looks quite comically simple. But I could still see, for its time, I thought this game was incredibly atmospheric. For example, is what I'm getting at.
Oh, the soundtrack plays a big part in that. It's a beautiful soundtrack.
The one that jumps out at me is when you get dropped in that Dutch.
I love that level.
That Dutch area where you've got to clear out the tanks and stuff, and that just feels like, because you're obviously going through like war zones and like places that have been like absolutely wrecked by the war, and then like that juxtaposes with this really serene, sedate, nice, calm Dutch sort of farming village, and then you then come up against the war machine in that, and I just find that bit really quite effective, I think is the word I'm looking for.
Yeah. Especially as there's quite a lot of actual civilians in that level as well, just kind of cowering and sometimes being dead.
It's I really like that bit. Even if your teammates that you get in that level are a pain in the neck, that are absolute idiots, like trying to get them,
and impatient as fuck as well. They will run straight off to the next objective and yell at you to hurry up. There was a lot of levels around that Dutch thing that I think were the highlights of the game. The Golden Lion I thought was really good, when you have to get the disguise and knock the beers over and stuff like that.
Yeah, that was another good bit.
The manor, obviously, we've already discussed.
The manor was good, yeah.
A fantastic level. The coolest bit about that, I thought, was shooting Nazis in their dressing gowns who've just been in a sauna. I thought that was fucking awesome.
Yeah.
And that stuff, like, again, it's like the GoldenEye connection, where you've got like turn the steam all the way up or whatever, and then the secret passage opens and you've got to crawl under the thing. And then the one after the bridge level was shit. I hated that.
Bridge level was rubbish, and I climbed all the way up that ladder right up to the top of the ridge and fell off.
I did it so many times to the point I just didn't bother.
Yeah, you didn't need to do it.
The worst thing, that level, the bridge level, is where the seams started to come apart for me in this, and where it went from being a really refreshing look back at late 90s, early 2000s shooter, sort of mission design, and feeling how fresh that was, that it wasn't really holding your hand but had a really good hint system.
Yep.
But this was where I was constantly getting shot by nothing, and I would have to move forwards for the enemies shooting me to actually appear, like to spawn in, because the game couldn't handle the draw distance to show me who was shooting at me. And that became a theme that just carried on and got worse and worse. There's the train yard levels later on. There was a moment there where I knew that there was a building that enemies were going to be in, but they weren't in there. You couldn't shoot them through the window until they didn't appear in that building until you got right up to the door. They would just pop in and then burst out the door and shoot you. And that, I found that happened like way more towards the end of the final level. I feel like they're just spawning out of nowhere constantly in that big courtyard. It's just bollocks.
I found there was a level that I think you had a pain in the ass time with, where you've got to destroy a panzer division. Like, it's basically...
That was the worst one. That's the one I nearly gave up on.
Yeah.
Again, I'd get right to the end and have to start the whole thing again. That was cool.
I found myself in an alcove.
Arnhem Knights.
That's the one. I found myself in an alcove in that level, and I could literally see the enemies just spawning one after the other in front of my eyes.
Yeah.
Just over and over again.
I think that's the bit. There's that the Panzer bit.
Yeah.
Panzer Shrek. Yeah. Disgusting. They would just appear in the corner out of absolutely nowhere. It was the next wave, but they didn't have the enemies come in from anywhere. They just pop right where you've already cleared it out. It
That was
doesn't make
actually
no
the
sense.
level though that did make me realise you don't need to kill everyone, because I
I wish
had
I'd
died
kind
I
of
had
done more
died
of
a
that.
couple times, and I was being silly and not using my save states properly, and by the third time I was running through that level, I realised, I don't even need to shoot you. So I was like running through doing the objective to the point that I ran right to the end of the level, and then I was like, I've not seen this Panzer Division. Then I had to go back looking for them. I was like, I know where they'll be. And then I had to run back.
Better than my one, where I'd get to the end of the level and the plane would come and do that weird bit, and then the tank would never actually spawn in, so I couldn't complete the level and had to quit it like several times because it
Yuck.
kept bugging out.
You
I
stuck
was going
with
to
it.
turn my PlayStation off and turn it on again. That was horrible. And then the Panzer, the like abundance of Panzer Shrek guys towards the end was a fucking nightmare. The one in the minecart, if you didn't shoot the guys with bazookas quickly enough, they would ruin me every time.
Mm-hmm.
And then the final level, called Stealing the Show, where you basically just start outside the courtyard. It's just full of people. They would. Did you notice in that level that you could actually go backwards on yourself from the beginning?
No.
So I can't remember what you've done before. I think it might be at the end of the mine level, but I can't remember. No, there's one before that actually. But you basically you're in this. There's a courtyard in front of you where there's Sturmgeist is up top, and he tells everyone to kill you. There's just hundreds of dudes again, all just spawning in out of thin air. So many of them had Panzer Shreks and would just kill me so easily just by pumping it down a corridor. But instead of running, God damn it!
Down your drinks, folks.
Instead of running out into the courtyard, because there's two like mounted machine guns there, which to me was an absolute fool's errand to use because you would just get exploded immediately. You can actually run back on yourself, and there was a room that had like 6 medikits in there, bunch of ammo. So I would basically like go back, get a medikit, run into this corridor again, snipe as many people as I possibly could, inevitably get blown up by a Panzer Shrek, run back, get another medikit, and did that like 6 times just because it was the only way I was ever going to get that level done. It was a nightmare. It's a horrible end to the game. Or the big boss battle with Sturmgeist, who packs a hell of a punch.
I just used my rocket launcher over and over in that final. I had loads of rockets, and would just pop in, smash a rocket, run away. Pop in, smash a rocket, run away.
Yeah, I think I might have ended up killing him with the rocket because before that, there's a part of the ceiling that falls down and kind of blocks it off, and you've got to go through a side path to come round. I was going round to the other side of the debris and trying to snipe him through it, but the game just doesn't want me to be able to do that, so none of the shots actually worked. You couldn't even throw a grenade over the top of it. It would stop on an invisible wall and just bounce down at my feet. And there's a lot of that in this game as well, like if a guy's on a mounted gun, it doesn't want you to be able to snipe him off there for some reason. So if you shoot him, it will just pretend that you're shooting the gun and not him, and he won't die. You had that a few times as well, like unkillable enemies, effectively.
They were an absolute nightmare.
Yeah, just be invisible little like things blocking their hitbox. Bizarre.
So I was looking through, and did you know, this is a random piece of, because you called out the music specifically in this game. I've now
Very
lost
bombastic.
I have pulled up so many tabs here that I've lost the one I had. Let me just have a Medal of Honor Frontline. It was composed by a man called Michael Giacchino.
Okay.
Who is also famed for doing the music for games such as, well, he's done film and television as well, but games...
I'm not surprised by that.
Games that he's done that you will have perhaps heard of. He started work in the 16-bit era for the Sega Genesis. He did the music for a game called Gargoyles on the SNES, in Maillard in Cold Shadow. Have you heard of that?
Nope.
He did the music for The Lion King. The 16-bits. He also did the Lost World Jurassic Park on PlayStation and also on Sega Saturn. He did the theme he started working for Pandemic Studios and did things like the Mercenaries games, Medal of Honor games. He worked on Call of Duty Finest Hour. He co-wrote the theme of Black as well, and also The Incredibles and Turning Point, Fall of Man. and also Medal
God,
of Honor Airborne. I'm looking at
it's a
like
game I've not thought about in a very long time.
you can try to look through like so he's worked with J.J. Abrams. He's worked on Bond movies. Yeah, this guy is Muppets, Wizard of Oz, Mission Impossible 3, Ratatouille, Star Trek, Up, Pixar's Up,
Oh wow, okay.
Cloverfield. That's an interesting one. Doctor Strange, yeah, he's worked more recently on Doctor Strange, Rogue One, the Star Wars movie,
Hmm.
Spider-Man Homecoming,
Oh wow, okay.
Jojo Rabbit as well.
Oh, I didn't like that film.
And he also composed the score for the Batman, the recent
That's
Batman movie.
still a great film though.
Absolutely, absolutely. Yeah, so
Still going then.
he's still going. He's had quite an interesting career, and actually, completely unsurprising because, well, it's so well made, really, isn't it?
Yeah, it's an excellent soundtrack.
I was trying to find out stuff about the development of this game, but I think like this game has sort of followed the classic sort of AAA development of that period, in which there doesn't seem to be many stories about it. Instead, I thought it'd be probably. What was that?
One thing that I did find because I was trying to I found a review of one of the later Medal of Honor games
Oh, good find.
earlier from Eurogamer, and they effectively were saying that I think they were saying that after this game had come out, like the development team basically split off, and most of them went to go work for Activision on Call of Duty from then on. And they said that basically the studio was so bare bones for Medal of Honor Rising Sun that game they gave it like 4 out of 10 and said it was an utter disaster. I don't remember hating it that much, but apparently it was nowhere near the same people who did Frontline that did Rising Sun. So the next one on the PS2, which I can't remember what we even decided it was called, but apparently that was more of like a return to form for the series. And Rising Sun is apparently derided by several people because it was very much not the same dev team anymore. So yeah, I believe a lot of people from this game went on to work on Call of Duty after this.
Which makes sense why Call of Duty became such a big thing, because if you're right, if Medal of Honor Rising Sun wasn't that good, we were having a quick look at the Medal of Honor games, and this does seem to be sort of the cusp of the wave where it starts to unfortunately go downhill after this.
Yeah.
Which I thought is quite interesting. One thing I thought was worth mentioning, and we kind of touched on it before, but I kind of wanted to poke at it directly, is that as fun as this game is, I am just fascinated that this game also came out alongside Halo Combat Evolved, because Combat Evolved has aged so well, I think, in comparison.
I believe it came out the year before, didn't it? Combat Evolved.
It's an older game, yeah. So I just think it's a weird, because like what I had come away from after having played this game was that it's a fun game and you can kind of see where the industry was going and how it developed beyond that. But actually, is that a fair thing to say about the game when there's already a game on the market that seems to be doing things in a much more modern way already? Like this game to me would feel old. Did it feel old in 2001? I don't think it did. Do you know what I'm getting at?
There are elements to this game that I can't believe hadn't already been rectified by that point, I think is what you're getting at.
Yeah.
Moving while aiming, having a radar that doesn't show enemies on it.
Yeah. It's very odd.
You're just getting shot. I found that I was getting shot so many times from invisible men that I could not locate. There was just gun. I think I'd cleared out an area and there's just some guy shooting at me relentlessly and I didn't know where he was and he wasn't hitting me. What else? I mean, things like objective markers and you know, compass points and all that kind of shit. I'm glad this wasn't in there because I feel like the hint system where you can just press a button and it kind of gives you your objective. You press it again, it kind of elaborates. And if you press it again, it then says, mate, just fucking go down the street. It's over there. All right. Which is you still have to kind of figure out where that place is that it's telling you to go. I did like that part of it, but yeah, there were elements of this that did feel like, you know, a bit archaic even then.
Do you think this game knew what it wanted to be? Like it seems to me like we've spoken about before, it seems to try and straddle being both a serious World War II shooter and also a bit silly and comic booky in parts.
There are some comedy moments in it as well. Which, you know, that's a tale, a trope that's as old as cinema itself. I think if a lot of people seem to like things like the Marvel films because of the fact that they would take like a serious comic book story but inject humor into things like that. Bond has always been on that line as
True.
well. Even the Batman films, Chris Nolan Batman films, would try and make a few jokes in there to keep things light at times. But in terms of how the game kind of goes off the rail and jumps the shark a little bit by the end, then it does feel like they lost sight of what the point of the game was.
To me, it all centers around it's the existence of that Sturmgeist guy. Like, it goes from being, like I say, a serious World War II shooter, which you're sort of threading together different key moments of the war.
Yeah.
And then there's this sort of big bad at the end who is almost comic booky in a way. I'm not sure how I feel about him, I guess.
Yeah, like it should have been able to maybe tell the story without needing to have just a prime antagonist boss.
It feels like
at
two
the end
different
boss
games
bit.
almost to me.
It does. It really does.
And I wonder if that's because they've moved. I wonder if that's just it showing itself as being the first non-Steven Spielberg Medal of Honor. Because I don't know if he
played the first two. I haven't.
I don't know if he exists in a Steven Spielberg Medal of Honor game. If he had stayed sort of at the head of the ship.
What's the second one like? Because the second one is revolves around one woman.
Yeah,
infiltrating behind enemy lines.
Similar idea. France. You are a one-man wrecking machine. I just don't remember there being the sort of boss fights that this game likes to thrust upon you. Even the minecart level, which is
that was
weird.
So dumb.
Yeah. Which it
was so short as well.
So
the levels got really short by the end.
And
it was just normally just like a mass spamming of enemies at you.
I had to do that with a pistol, basically. No, in fact, I was having
Me too. I did it with the pistol.
And then by the end I was using my bloody sniper rifle because you run out of bullets so quickly.
Yeah.
And there's no way to
again,
refill.
I was just trying to at times in that I was just kind of hoping I could duck.
Yeah.
Or just not get shot. Can I just see what happens if I don't shoot any of these guys back? It was more just, try and find the Panzerschrecken guy because he would ruin it every time.
Yeah, absolutely.
Just ridiculous accuracy with a fucking rocket and just kill me. I can't dodge it because I'm in a fucking minecart, you prick.
One piece of trivia I've got for you, actually, that I think is the only one that I've found that's probably worth telling you about, is the D-Day sections, as well as the beginning of the Storming the Port, features numerous homages to the 1998 war film Saving Private Ryan. But apparently, in fact, the entire first level of Storm of the Port is a replica of the set from the film, which I thought was quite interesting and cool.
Okay. I know that the Arnhem Knights level nearly made me stop playing the game, but that made me think a lot of Saving Private Ryan as well, because you've got all those like houses that are like all the walls have been like blown off, and there's Germans like carrying it, hiding in the corners of it and stuff. I really like the one when you're going through the backyards in Holland as well.
And then the old dude comes to help you. Instantly dies
with his shotgun. Yeah, he walks out of his back garden and just gets absolutely wrecked. And you're going in like people's houses and eating their bread to get your health back and stuff, and going up like sniping people out of their windows. That's a wicked level.
Mm-hmm.
That felt very Saving. I mean, the whole thing is very Saving Private Ryan. That's not a bad thing.
I constantly forget, and then I am like often surprised by when I remember that Vin Diesel's in Saving Private Ryan.
That is mad.
Yeah,
I forgot about that as well.
I always forget about that, and then when I hear about it, I'm like, oh yeah, because he gets shot by a sniper, doesn't he?
Oh yeah. I haven't watched that film for a while. I need to go back. Band of Brothers is what I've watched more recently than that.
Oh, but yeah, I think Annie and I watched Band of Brothers during the first lockdown. We need to now watch The Pacific, which I think is
not as good.
Not as good, but some people like it.
Fun fact: The Pacific has the little kid from Jurassic Park in it, the little boy.
Oh, excellent! Is he a soldier?
Yeah.
Oh, fantastic. That's another one that's got people in it that you forget is in it, like
David Schwimmer.
David Schwimmer, yeah, he's in it.
Simon Pegg?
Tom Hardy as well.
Yeah.
Simon Pegg, yeah, I forgot about him. Anyway, we're just listing the actors now. So, So by July 2006, the PlayStation 2 version of Medal of Honor Frontline had sold 2.5 million copies and earned 95 million in the United States alone. The next generation ranked it as the 8th highest selling game launched for the PlayStation 2, Xbox, or GameCube between January 2000 and July 2006 in that country. The PlayStation 2 version also received a double platinum sales award for the Entertainment and Leisure Software Publishers Association, indicating sales of at least 600,000 copies in the United Kingdom, and a gold cert from the Verband der Unterhaltungssoftware Deutschland for the sales of 100,000 units across Germany, Austria, and Switzerland. The game received generally favourable reviews according to the video game review aggregator Metacritic. GameSpot named Frontline as the best video game of May 2002. It won GameSpot's annual Best Sound on PS2, which we've just been discussing, and it was runner-up for Best Music on PS2 and Best Graphics Technical on PS2. It received further nominations for Best Shooter, Best Music, Best Sound categories among the GameCube games, and Best Music and Best Sound among Xbox games. Unsurprising, I suppose. The Metacritic for this game is an 88. What do you think about that?
Very high.
Do you think that's too high?
Probably the pinnacle of the series. No. If this game had checkpoints in it, I'd have had an absolutely wonderful time throughout.
Yeah, it's just to making you go back and restarting.
Yeah, the entire level again.
Yeah.
Another thing as well, this game gave me a real existential crisis in that I have for a long time been of the mindset that the GameCube controller is my favorite controller ever.
Mm-hmm.
And because I have the GameCube version, I can legally emulate it on Dolphin. I started off playing that and used my Wii U USB thing to play with the actual GameCube controller, which is horrible to play a first-person shooter with because the C-stick is so tiny. So now I am definitely not of the mindset that it's the greatest.
You've changed your mind, have you?
It has broken my opinion of that, yeah.
I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing.
Put your C-stick away, boys. It's not worth it. So small.
In my head, the C-stick is really odd. Is it not like it's...
And it's all like...
hexagonally.
Yeah, 8 directions, yeah. That's
very
probably
odd.
Another reason, because it's like, it slots into grooves. So yeah, it was really weird to try and aim with that.
I'm having a quick look through all the other... There's a lot of Medal of Honor games.
That's been on for a while.
Yeah. Do you think, Alex, that this is important to the FPS is as important to the FPS genre as, say, a Wolfenstein is?
Absolutely not. No.
No. Do you think this is just a very good shooter? Is there something that this does really that moves? I don't think this really does anything to move the genre on. It's
I suppose
one of the more modern ones, but then again, like as we spoke about Halo, I think Halo does everything this game does better from a controls perspective.
I think this game is probably important in that it clearly sold really well. It clearly showed the value of a well-made World War II shooter. And of course, from the fact that a lot of the development team went on to make Call of Duty, and the rest of that is history.
I wonder if that's
perhaps it is as important as Wolfenstein.
Yeah, I wonder if that ultimately is its legacy, because like if we're talking about like Wolfenstein being the precursor to Doom, and Doom being the game that really sort of put a rocket under the industry, and then the same thing with Call of Duty being the sort of rocket game for the first-person shooter genre. This is sort of Wolfenstein. This is sort of the Wolfenstein to the
of
Doom,
that decade
of this game. Yeah, I wonder if that's maybe its legacy.
I would say so.
I think that brings us to the end of the episode, Alex.
I would say so, mate.
That was a good one. Thank you very much. We do have a letter, but will we come back to that? Or do you want to do it now?
I think we better come back to that.
I was thinking so. So we'll... as I was saying, that brings us to the end of episode 39 of the Resurrected Winners U podcast. What's the game we're doing next, Alex?
I can't remember.
We're still working on Elden Ring, and that'll come when it comes. We do have in the docket Sonic Colors and also Rogue Legacy 2 to be getting on with.
Oh yeah.
So I suppose it's going to be one of those. And then
I
guess
think Sonic Colors was going to come along with Sonic Jam, wasn't it?
Was it?
Hmm. Oh, well, yeah. So I think probably
Is
it's
Sonic Colors
potentially
going to
Rogue.
be the next this podcast? Is that what you were saying? Or did I understand you right there?
Sonic Jam has a anniversary in the late June, so potentially not. I want to do the Mario Game Boy games as our next one of
Is our
these.
next one of these? Yeah, okay, let's do them. So is Sonic Colors its own thing?
I had that mixed in with Sonic Jam
Okay.
because Sonic Jam is basically just the original Sonic games.
So
Again.
my guess is the next big podcast is probably Rogue Legacy 2.
I would say so.
And then we get to Elden Ring when we get to it.
Yeah, part 2 of
And
that will be coming.
We'll just keep plugging away on that.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, well, next up we've got Rogue Legacy 2, which we have been playing and having a fantastic time with. So
Absolutely.
keep your ear holes open for that. And I guess that, like I said, that brings us to the end of episode 39. Next will be episode 40. Oh my God, we're middle-aged now, Alex. We are middle-aged. We're a middle-aged podcast. Male pattern baldness is in full swing. We're going to have to buy a Mazda MX-5 for our midlife crisis.
Our midlife crisis.
Yeah, so thanks for listening. I've been David. He has been Alex. We have been A Winner's Shoe, and I am out.
Keep gaming.